Hello, and how's everyone doing today? Welcome to the channel of your new, your returning viewer. Glad to have you back, and welcome to another episode of Justin Talks Games. As you can see from the title, I want to talk about the things that are missing in Resident Evil 2 Remake. This video is going to seem very negative, or it can come off maybe negative. I don't want you guys to think that I hate Resident Evil 2 Remake and I dislike it and I completely changed my thoughts on it, which wouldn't make sense because I'm currently doing Resident Evil 2 on the channel right now. So I don't want you guys to think that. Um, so that being said, before I get into it, grab your drinks. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Grab your snacks. As you guys know, I don't like to eat while I'm making videos. Let's get into this. So, the way that this video came to be is actually, I was on Reddit last night. I was sitting in my chair. I had Horizon Remaster, on my TV. I was taking a little break, having a coffee, having a drink of my coffee, and it was just scrolling a little bit through Reddit. I'm on the Resident Evil subreddit, and I just happened to come across one of the million and billion posts of should Resident Evil 1 be remade again in the RE engine and whatever. There's so many of those. It's so annoying. But for whatever reason, I clicked on it. I was bored. I clicked on it. I was reading through the comments and stuff. And I happened to see someone say something along the line. So I don't know. I don't remember exactly how it was worded. I don't remember how the comments were worded in it. I just remember the basics of what they were trying to get across. So basically, one guy essentially was like, well, if it's like the Resident Evil 2 remake, no, I don't want them to do it. He had a lot of downvotes. He had a couple people saying, oh, you're baiting and don't believe this guy and all that kind of stuff. And I said to him, essentially, I can't remember word for word, but I was basically like, I don't know why you're getting downvotes. I understand where you're coming from, and I kind of agree. Now, I've always tried to think positive about the things that I like, and I like Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's a great game. I'll say that it's a great game. Does it have flaws? Absolutely, it absolutely has flaws. But I like it. But I try not to think about those things. And then there was a couple other comments, whatever. But the one that stuck out to me was someone asked me in that thread, or was just asking maybe in general, I don't know, but it was part of the conversation. Someone jumped in and said, well, I know Resident Evil 3 is missing a lot, but what is 2 and 4 missing? Now, I didn't touch on Resident Evil 4 Remake. In my opinion, it's much better than the original 4. But, that's a whole other conversation. So I didn't touch on that. I explained everything that was missing in Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I made a list. I don't want to say it was long, but it wasn't like stupid, like, 7 fucking paragraphs long or anything like that. But it was quite long. And I always tend to, like, when I'm done reading, or when I'm done writing something, I tend to reread what I said. If it looks okay, I'll click send. And then once it's sent, I'll read through it again, because it's easier to see it that way. So I'll read it again. And if there's any spelling mistakes or any words or letters or anything that shouldn't be there, I click on that and obviously change it. That wasn't the case for this one. It was more of a realization of exactly how much. And again, I know how much is missing from 2. But I just try not to dwell on it and whatever, right? But when it comes down to it, when it really, really, really ultimately comes down to it, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like hearing this part, so, try to temper yourselves and don't grab your pitchforks or anything. But in reality, there's just as much missing in 2 as there is in Resident Evil 3 Remake. And I know you're probably thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you on drugs? What's going on with you? But the difference is between 2 and 3 Remake. And it sucks that there's so much missing from 2, because like I said, 2 is very, very good. If you've never played the original Resident Evil 2, just how well that game is essentially stitched together, you wouldn't really know that there's stuff missing. Yeah, the scenarios are the same and it might feel a little strange, but all in all, if you've never played the original and you're not familiar with Resident Evil as a whole, again, the series is 30 years old, right? You can't really expect every player in the world to have automatically played all the original games. To go on a side rant just for a quick second talking about that, the one thing that is really sad and kind of annoying in a way is that when you see these posts, oh, I'm new to Resident Evil, what should I play? Every single one, well, not every single one, but I'll say 75% of the comments are all recommending original or remake games. Oh, Remake 2, it's perfect. Remake 4, it's amazing. And while, yes, those are good games, don't get me wrong, by recommending those first, in my opinion, you're taking away from their premium experience of what Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, whatever it is, may be, because there's so much taken out of them. And again, don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 2 Remake, I do enjoy it. But yeah, anyway, let's go back. So, as I was saying, yeah, there's about the same amount of stuff missing in Resident Evil 2 than there is in 3. And I know a lot of people are probably going to think I'm crazy watching this video. Even people who watch this video, like, 10, 20 years from now, if they watch it. If they watch it, who knows? They may hear this part and go, what the hell is this guy talking about? He's fucking weird. But if we look at it from a surface, just from a surface view, right? From the surface, Resident Evil 2, it plays well. The story is good. Obviously, the environments, are very well put together. And everything, flows well. And it makes a very good package. So if you only played Resident Evil 2 Remake, never played the original, you wouldn't know that stuff's missing. 3, on the other hand, because it's a much more open environment, or they try to make it seem like it's a much more open environment, escaping the city, stuff like that. It's a lot more obvious that there's stuff missing, and it's a lot more streamlined for like objectives and stuff that you need to do. I've seen people who've never played the original Resident Evil 3 and have played the 2 Remake and stuff say things like, Resident Evil 2 Remake was much better. While I like Resident Evil 3 Remake, it feels like it's a DLC to Resident Evil 2. It feels like there probably was supposed to be more stuff, stuff like that. Not direct, hate and bash and stuff, but just people, again, who have never played the originals, get that feeling that there's supposed to be more there. And it feels a lot more hollow than Resident Evil 2 Remake. So on a surface level, people have those feelings. But on a surface level, you don't get that feeling for Resident Evil 2. And that's the part that, not disappointing. It doesn't make me mad. More than anything, it makes me feel sad. It makes me feel it's. I can't even say anything else. It makes me feel sad because of how well that game is put together, and knowing how there's so much that's not there. If all the stuff that was not in the remake was in the remake of 2, oh man, it would have been right beside Resident Evil 1 remake. To this day, I still feel, and millions of other people also feel, that Resident Evil 1 remake, back in 2002 on the GameCube, is still the standard, or is still what the standards of remakes should be. And if Resident Evil 2 had all of its stuff that was missing in it, in the same style that it is right now, it would have been right beside it. They would have been sitting right up there on the podium together, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, just like that. And it would have been a beautiful sight to see that. But it's very sad to see those things missing because, again, of how beautifully well Resident Evil 2 Remake was put together. Um, so let's get into. I want to get into the structure. Basically, the scenarios A and B. I'm going to explain how the remakes do it, and then how the original does it. Because more people have, like, in 2026. I mean, realistically, more people have played the remakes than the originals. As sad as it blah 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 blah. I can't talk. As sad as it is, the reality is more people, younger generation of fans and all that coming, have played the remakes than the originals. Um, so I'll start with how the remakes do the scenarios, and then we'll get into the originals. I hope this does help people who have not played the remakes or have not played the originals, and it kind of gives them the feeling, the urge to go and give them a chance and play them. Um, so in the remakes, you have obviously your first run and you have your second run. That's what they call it in the remakes. They call it first and second run. Um, there's not many differences between them at all. Realistically, not very many at all. Um, obviously, you have all your RPD stuff. You have all your sewer stuff and all your lab stuff. All that stuff, with the exception of like one or two, or sorry, we'll say about 3 rooms in the RPD, um, is exactly the same, minus those rooms, right? Because obviously Leon doesn't go into Chief Iron's office, and there's one room in one hallway that Leon can't go into or whatever, right? Same thing with Claire, right? There's like 2 or 3 rooms that each character can't go into, but take those aside, push those aside. Those 3 areas are exactly the same. You do the exact same things. You do the exact same puzzles. You do the exact same blah 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 blah. So the only even bosses too, right? Um, both Leon and Claire both fight Birkin 1, 2, 3. Because those are like they're not final bosses, so they fight all of them. And obviously they have their side characters, right? Connected to their individual story. So obviously Leon has Ada, and Ada's, trying to infiltrate Umbrella, blah 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 blah, and you got Ben and whatever. And then Claire has, Sherry and Annette, and Chief Irons and blah blah. You have those two, things as well, right? But those aside, so if you take the side characters away, the final boss away, and the 3 rooms, the rest of the game is exactly the same for the first run and the second run, except the puzzle answers are different. Other than that, it's the exact same game. even right down to Leon and Claire both getting the virus and the antivirus in the same device, which that makes no fucking sense, but whatever. So as you can see, it's basically the same. Now, if you don't think about it like that, if you don't think about them being exactly the same, it feels like a complete game. It feels very good. It feels great. But if you really look at it like that, and you have knowledge of the extensive knowledge of the original Resident Evil 2, that's when the sadness kind of comes in because of how well, like I said, how well put together the remake is. So let's transfer over now and go to the A and B scenarios of the originals. So in scenario A, well, it doesn't matter who you play as. Scenario A, you start off in the one side of the city and you run to the police station, the exact same way you do in the remake, minus they took out the basketball court and the bus. They didn't take them out. They moved them to Claire's part. You don't do the basketball court or the bus with Leon, so they're still there, but they moved them. In every A scenario, you always go down the one same street. Which takes you through the streets. You go through the basketball court, the side alleys. You walk through a bus, and then you end up at the front gate of the RPD. Obviously, that was super, super duper duper condensed in the remake. It's like maybe like a 3-minute run from the explosion to the police station, and that's it. They cut all the side stuff out from the beginning. In the second scenario of the original, you actually play from the opposite side of the explosion of the truck, and you do the other side of the street. And when you enter the vicinity of the police station, you actually go to the back of it, and you actually enter in from a whole different area. Whereas in the remake, when you start off in the second run, it cuts the entire side street out of that, like the opposite side of the street. That's completely ripped out. And when you start off at the side gate of the RPD, on the side of it. So they chopped all that out. What's another thing too? There are puzzle differences between the two scenarios. Scenario A characters will have the plugs that you see in the remake. That is same thing. It's in the sewer area. But the second character, or maybe it's only, yeah, whatever. The second character, which is usually, I think Leon. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting that part mixed up. Let me backtrack and think for a second. Right, sorry. So I kind of mixed up a little bit. So I should say that Claire A and Leon B is how the scenarios are canon-wise. In the remakes, it doesn't matter because it's all the same shit. It literally doesn't matter. But anyways, one character will have the plugs, like the remake, like I said, and another character, presumably that would be Claire because that's in Chief Iron's office. So Claire will have these, what do you call it? These stone square things that you put into this picture. You have to find them in different places, RPD, and one's broken in half. You find the two, and then you find two pieces, and then you have the three. And then there's a picture, like I said, behind Chief Iron's desk in his office. And you put those in, and that slides open, and then that takes you to a secret dungeon area. That secret dungeon area is nowhere to be found in the remake. You do that, And that's actually where Chief Irons gets killed. He gets killed in that dungeon. So anyway, in that like underground dungeon area, there's a ladder that goes down. When you go down that ladder, there's an underground cavern area. Um, that's where you see Birkin for the first time, and that's stage one Birkin. Um, you defeat him, blah blah blah, and then you grab Sherry, and that underground cavern area is actually where you find the tram, right? That takes you to the marshalling yard, right? In the remake, there's none of that. Absolutely none of that. They moved the tram car, the cable car, whatever they call it. They put that in the sewers, and they cut that whole thing. So as you can see, right there, there's a whole chunk missing, a huge big chunk missing. There's also, I think, so what do you call it? The alligator part also has two different outcomes. Well, technically three, I think. I think there can be possibly three. There's the one where you kill him. There's another one where I think he bashes through a wall and he runs away. I think it's been a long time, but I'm pretty sure it's that. And then there's the third one where he doesn't show up at all in that area because I think he was previously killed in the other scenario. Another thing that I really, really want to note is that unlike the remake of 2, the original Resident Evil 2, the way that it's structured, it's very, very intertwined. It's very tight knit. Both the scenarios they intertwine, they connect with each other to make one big story. Another thing that really sells this is the communication between the characters, right? To go back to the remakes for a second, there's only 2 times that Leon, after the car crash, there's only 2 times that Leon and Claire interact with each other. And the one is outside the gate. The one's outside the gate, and the other one is in the lab on the computer screen. In the original game, obviously you have the car crash, they yell to each other, blah blah. And then there's a couple places they can actually meet up. The first one being the STARS office. There's a possibility you can meet up in the STARS office. You can meet up on the second floor hallway. They can meet up and talk to each other that way. I think I don't know, I don't remember how they get radios, but each character somehow gets a radio, and they radio communication to each other for important parts. So after you gain access to the parking lot, right, Leon will contact Claire and be like, hey, you now have access to the parking lot. After Leon and Ada, they do that, right? They make access to it. As I said, the characters, they're a lot more intertwined. It literally feels like a story. It feels like everything's connected. Everything's nice and compact. Again, whereas in the remake, everything just feels like, copy paste almost, which is, again, is very, very unfortunate. But I'm not even done yet. I haven't even talked about the separate areas. There's separate areas that they go to. I said the same areas in the remake, but in the originals, you do go to the same areas as the same characters in the originals, but they also have their own separate areas as well. Like the first scenario, you do whatever, and then like in the second scenario, you'll do most of the same areas that you do with the first character, but the second character has a whole other area because, obviously one character takes the elevator down, blah, 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 obviously it comes back up somehow. That's not explained, but I mean, hey, maybe it's on a timer or something, that doesn't really need to be explained. So anyway, you take the marshalling yard elevator down, and the motor overheats or something like that, and it stops halfway. Um, so the second character has to, she climbs out, and you end up in the in a maintenance area of the lab section, right? The section that like the lab technicians and the scientists and stuff, they wouldn't see this area, right? That wouldn't be their expertise. This would be more like maintenance people and stuff. And it's a considerable size area. um, but that whole entire area was also ripped out of the remake. For those of you who have not played the originals, again, as I said, so the elevator comes down. So to give a better description of the elevator I'm talking about, in Claire's scenario, where the train is, I think it's a Galaxy 5000 or something. I can't remember exactly the name of it. But the train that's on that platform, um, that platform is the one that I'm talking about. If that platform were to go all the way up, like all the way up, which we don't see in the remake, all the way up to the surface level, that's where the marshalling yard would be. But again, obviously that's not in there. So in the remake or in the original, while you're on that platform and it's going down to the lab, halfway down, like I said, the motors or whatever gets overheated and it stops for a second. So Claire is basically like, okay, well, so she climbs out and she ends up in the maintenance area. After the elevator's motors cool down, it powers back up and it goes down the rest of the way. And you're left exploring this whole entire big maintenance area. And that's also where you find out that the tyrant isn't there for random reasons. It isn't there just to take out, what do you call it? Witnesses and this and that, right? Um, his actual goal, the tyrant's actual goal in Resident Evil 2 is to get Sherry's pendant. Because in Sherry's pendant, if you notice around her neck, the pendant's a little bigger than a normal one would be. It's a little bit bigger. The reason for that is because the tyrant was sent by Umbrella to get a sample of the G virus, and there's a tiny vial of the G virus in Sherry's pendant. That is why the tyrant is in Resident Evil 2. Think about that. That's why he's in Resident Evil 2. In the remake, I haven't read all the notes in a long time, but apparently someone on Reddit said that there's a note from Ben saying that the tyrant was sent to eliminate witnesses and stuff like that. If that's true, that's only half right. That's not. I wouldn't. Well, no, even less than half right. Because the tyrant's goal is to get the G virus, and there's no hint of that at all whatsoever in the remake. If you don't read the notes or anything like that, the tyrant is just there because he's just there. Right? In the original game, there's a cutscene, I think for the second scenario, there's a cutscene that shows an Umbrella helicopter. It's flying over the RPD, and it's carrying these gigantic cylinders, and I think there's like 6 of them or something. And it drops one over top of the RPD. It crashes through. It breaks open and it crashes down, and that's how the tyrant gets to the RPD. It's airdropped in from Umbrella with the purpose of getting the G virus. It doesn't tell you that, but you see the helicopter flying and you see him deployed into the police station. In the remake, for most of you who've played the remake, as you know, he's just magically there. It doesn't show how he gets there. No explanation of really why he's there, except for apparently a note saying survivors or something. He just randomly shows up, pushes the helicopter out of the way. I'll get into that in a second. He pushes, the crash helicopter out of the way, and that's it. If we get into the helicopter, because that's another thing too, in the second scenario of 2, the original 2, there is a cutscene that shows Officer Elliot. Officer Elliot in the remake is the one who you pull under the metal grate and he's ripped in half and all that. That never happens in the original at all. They completely changed that. In the original, there's a helicopter flying, and it's here's the helipad, and helicopter's here flying. Elliot's standing here. An officer drops the rope down that's in the helicopter. Elliot's trying to grab it. He has a machine gun, and there's like 2 or 3 zombies that are closing in on him. And the zombies, they get to him, they grab him, and they bite him. And what happens when something happens when you get hurt? You clench up, you tense up. So he gets bitten, he gets grabbed, he gets bitten, he tenses up, he accidentally pulls the trigger on the machine gun. Machine gun is facing upwards, it shoots and it kills the pilot. The pilot obviously loses control because he gets killed from the machine gun. Bam, and that's how he crashes into the police station, right? In the remake, it just happens because, and it's off screen as well. You're literally running down a hallway, and you hear meow, and you see a light just go across the screen, and you hear the bang, and the screen shakes and everything like that. And that's it. And then you go outside, and you see a helicopter literally just hanging out of the wall. Whereas in the original one, there's a helipad, and it's crashed into the wall down here. I keep forgetting the camera's not down here, so I do apologize. You have your helipad here, and the wall obviously goes like this, and he's crashed into the wall here, so you can still run around and all that. In the remake, as you guys know, it's literally just kind of sticking out of a wall, and there's a staircase that goes down, and they're talking, blah blah blah, and then boom, it explodes, and then that sets off zombies. In the original game, it doesn't explode. Well, it does, but it doesn't wait until blah 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 talks. Meow, bang, it crashes, and then boom, and it's all fire, and that's why you put the fire out. I don't know. I mean, I'm already half an hour into the video. I really hope you guys are still here, and I'm hoping this is pretty informative and not just me rambling, sounding really stupid. So, if I don't sound stupid, leave a comment letting me know. If I do sound really dumb, again, I do apologize. I don't know if I've explained the bosses already, because again, I've been talking about half an hour. Each character fights a different variant. So, example, Leon would, or whatever. I don't even care anymore. I'm just going to throw examples out. Leon will fight Birkin 1. Claire would fight Birkin 2. Whatever, stuff like that. They don't fight the same bosses. Another thing that I have not talked on, and I think it might be one of the last things. Actually, no, there's another area I'm going to talk about after this. And then I think that's it. So there's another thing that's taken out that also added quite a bit to Resident Evil 2. It didn't affect a lot, but it felt like a lot. And it made you really think about what you wanted to do. There is something called the zapping system. And I know people throw that word out and all that. And, some people explain it, some don't. Basically, what that is if you use a certain item, or if you take certain items in one playthrough, the outcome of that will kind of change in the other one. Meaning, said items won't be in that playthrough. And using such item will kind of change something. So, there's 2 areas where this really shines. The first one being the what's it called? The armory in the basement. That was taken out too in the remake. The whole armory with the key card and all that kind of stuff, that was taken out too. They replaced that with the shooting range. Go figure. Yeah, you could have had a machine gun like a actual machine gun in Resident Evil 2. And they took that out. Actually, no, sorry, they didn't take it out. It's the Mac 11, and they made it so only Claire could have it. And I believe that was locked behind the RPD door. Whatever. So anyway, there was this armory, and there was a locker. Now, there was a submachine gun, and there was also and a side pack. You choose to take one, and it says in writing, that you should leave the other thing for. I should leave this for Leon or whatever. That doesn't block you off from taking it. You can still take it. You can take both items, but the game's, subtly, very subtly. I don't know how the hell to say that word. Basically, it's trying to tell you you don't really want to do this. You really don't want to take both items. But you can if you want to. And if you know what you're doing on later playthroughs, go for it. But anyway, say you take both items. Just an example. You take the submachine gun, you take the pack. Whatever. You take them, you don't think about it. You start your second run. You get there, you get the key card, same thing. You get the key card, you go in, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get the machine gun, or I'm going to get the pack like I did with Leon. When you open up that locker, there's no pack. There's no machine gun. You want to know why? Leon has them. Yeah. And there are things like that in Resident Evil 2 that affect your playthrough. And that's really cool, because it makes you think, okay, well, next time I play through the game again, maybe I'll only take the pack and I'll leave the machine gun for the second, whoever you're playing as. Like, say you're playing as Leon first this time. I'll take the pack and I'll leave the machine gun for Claire, because I know there's such and such boss, which, it's pretty hard. Or it's like, well, I need more space for Leon. I can do this. So, stuff like that. It's really, really, it makes it interesting. There's a cord that you can get, like a wrapped cord that you can get. There are two sets of two walls that have electric shutters in them. Those walls are actually the windows, like those two hallways, where the shutters are in the original game, where you put the cord. Those two hallways are the two hallways that you can board up the windows with the wooden boards and all that. But anyways, I was just explaining where they were. So, say you use the cord on the second floor, right? Oh no! It's actually those two places are both on the first floor. Sorry, I was getting mixed up. Say you do it on the left side. So picture the main hall. You go left. That's the one hallway, whatever, the dark hallway, whatever. I'm really stupid with explaining right now. Say you use it there and the shutters go down. For those of you who have played the original, I'm talking about the liquor hallway. So say you put the cord in there and the shutters go down, and you're good to go. In the second playthrough, when you go to, I think it's the library. When you get to the library, the cord actually shorts out, and the shutters shoot back up, and the zombies come in. And if you use it in the other hallway, I can't remember exactly where you go, and that one shorts out. But yeah, basically you're helping yourself in one playthrough, but by using that cord, right, and those shutters, you could potentially be making it more dangerous in the second playthrough. Again, there's so much. Some of them are little things, but there's so much missing from Resident Evil 2 Remake, like I said. And I know this video is very long, and I do apologize. I don't usually make talks games that are like almost an hour long. But that's why I get sad. That's why I feel sad. Because when you compare it to the original game, it is hollow compared to the original game. As good as the remake is, again, and I do like it, and I do enjoy playing it, and whatever. Like I said, it does have a few positives to it. Like I said, but if you directly compare it to the original, it is a shell of its former self, and it's sad to say that. Um, Again, I'm not bashing the remake. I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever. I'm not saying blah 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 blah. I'm just saying when you look at it at a realistic perspective, and you've played the original games and stuff, so you can do like this real deep thinking and stuff. Um, there is the same amount of stuff missing in two that there is in three, except the difference is with three. Um, it's not interactions because there are interactions, a lot of interactions with characters and stuff, blah blah. They had all of that good, but it was more locations, weapons, and mercenary stuff like that, right? So it was more noticeable with the three remake than it is on the two remake. Again, on a surface level, if you've never played two original, the remake, it's basically flawless almost, right? If you've never played it, but again, compared to three, it feels like a DLC even if you've never played it. But that's why I always recommend when I see these posts. Oh, I never played Resident Evil before. Personally, I don't know if a lot of these posts are real. That's just me because there's so many of them. But anyway, if I feel like the post is legitimate, read the title, I read what they say, and if I feel it's a legitimate post, I always recommend the originals. I always do, because you miss out on so much and you don't think about it when you play the remake. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because again, like I said, it's stitched so well together. If you don't compare it to the original two, if Resident Evil 2 wasn't a remake and Resident Evil 2 2019, was building off of the 2001 game, and let's just pretend that Resident Evil came out, recently, the brand new franchise, and the 2015 remaster, we'll say, of the remake was the very first game, and then boom, Resident Evil 2 came out. It'd be very, very good. It'd be very good. But again, when you compare it, it just makes you sad. Anyways, this is a very long video. If you didn't stick through it, I don't blame you. Sometimes I'm not the best at making talking videos, but I try my best. If you did stick through it all the way and you did agree with a lot of the stuff that I said, if you're a new player and you've never played Resident Evil 2, let me know. Let me know how that makes you feel if you've only played the remakes, you never played the originals, if it makes you want to go and try the originals. Hell, you can even watch YouTube videos of playthroughs. I do have playthroughs of original 2, but I don't think my Claire is a scenario B, because I think I did Leon A on my channel. Because the emulator that I was using couldn't properly do the second scenario or something. I don't remember. So you could watch mine if you want, but I'm pretty sure both Leon and Claire's are both A's. I don't think it's AB. I could be wrong. I haven't gone through my videos in a while. But yeah, if you haven't played it, definitely go play it if you have the money to get the games. Again, they're on PS5. I don't know if they're on Xbox, but they're on PS5, probably on PS4 now. They're on GOG. Hell, there's YouTube videos of people who do no commentary playthroughs. There's people who do commentary playthroughs like me, who have proper A/B scenarios. There's so many options out there for you guys to see the proper way of Resident Evil 2. So I recommend it. But yeah, like I said, it's sad that it's not the way the original is. So with that being said, I'm going to end this now before I start rambling, because I know I feel like I may start rambling and I don't want to do that. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, all that fun kind of stuff. If you found this informative, again, let me know. If you don't agree with me and you feel the remake is still better after all of that stuff, again, let me know. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, right? Whether I agree with you or I disagree with you, it doesn't really matter. I mean, unless you're rude about it, then, kind of shoot back at you. Not gonna lie, I'm like that. But yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinion. If you say, hey, I've played the original many, many times, and I feel that the remake is better, that's fine. That's fine because you're saying it in a nice way. But yeah, so blah 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 blah. I will see you guys in my next video, which will probably be Resident Evil 2 Remake. Until then, have a wonderful day.